On October 28, 2022, at approximately 2 a.m., a 42-year-old man named David DePape illegally entered the home of Paul and Nancy Pelosi. DePape broke through glass doors at the rear entrance of the house. Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House of the United States House of Representatives, was not home and was in Washington, D.C. at the time. DePape found her husband instead, upstairs in a third-story bedroom. "Where's Nancy?" he reportedly asked. Mr. Pelosi stated that she was not home, and upon hearing this, DePape claimed he would wait. Mr. Pelosi convinced DePape to allow him to use the bathroom. In the bathroom, he made a call to the police at 2:23 a.m. When the police arrived about 8 minutes later, Mr. Pelosi rushed to the front door. Mr. DePape pursued him, and upon opening the door, the police discovered both men struggling with a hammer. Mr. DePape bludgeoned him severely, prompting the police to tackle the intruder. DePape has since been charged with several felonies by the San Francisco District Attorney's Office: assault with a deadly weapon, attempted murder, burglary, elder abuse, false imprisonment of an elder, and threatening the family of a public official. On the federal level, he has been charged with kidnapping and assault of the family of a federal official. In addition, ICE has filed an immigration detainer on DePape. The Canadian-born perpetrator originally came to the United States with the proper paperwork, but his visa long ago expired. He pled not guilty and has been denied bail. Mr. Pelosi suffered severe injuries, including damage to his skull. He received medical attention and had successful surgery. The incident could have been much worse. According to DePape himself, he was not there simply to assassinate Nancy Pelosi. This was part of a larger scheme to kidnap members of the Democratic Party. Officials have confirmed he had a list of names, but the specifics of that list are not presently public knowledge. DePape planned to first kidnap Nancy Pelosi, interrogate her, break her kneecaps, strap her to a wheelchair, and present her to Congress as a warning. By all accounts, DePape had been suffering from a combination of mental illness and drug abuse. DePape credits the 2014 online harassment campaign Gamergate with his shift to right-wing politics. Since then, he has been duped into believing stranger and stranger right-wing conspiracy theories like QAnon. This has been confirmed by his numerous online posts that can be verified and time-stamped. His views are anti-Semitic, homophobic, Islamophobic, sexist, and racist. He promotes the 2020 election conspiracy theory, he is a Holocaust denier, an anti-vaxxer, and he absolutely loves Jordan Peterson. He is everything wrong with the United States and the world today, wrapped into one mediocre man. As detestable as he is, I also find him pitiable. He is poor, he has been living in a garage for years, with no real access to mental health services, inundated by far-right grifters and conspiracists, making a living off the ignorance and suffering of others. David DePape is both perpetrator and victim in a cycle of disinformation, a snake that eats itself, forever. He will probably be convicted of many, if not all, of his charges and spend an enormous amount of the remainder of his life in our broken carceral system. In short, that is what happened on October 28th. Every detail has been confirmed and endlessly fact-checked over the past 2 weeks. However, if you travel in far-right circles or spend any time stumbling through inane social media hashtags, you may have read a completely different and completely false account of what happened. According to various liars and grifters, DePape did not break into the Pelosi home. Instead, he was there having sex with Paul Pelosi, and that DePape's kidnapping and attempted murder was actually a simple lover's quarrel. Or perhaps an argument about payment, because one version of this conspiracy theory also labels DePape a paid sex worker. This conspiracy theory blew up on Twitter for reasons I will explain. Conspiracy theories generally have, well, not necessarily a kernel of truth, but a kernel of half-truth. Some detail that is just suspicious enough to draw attention to it and craft an entire narrative around that one detail. Even if the detail can be easily explained, by the time the explanation has been made, the false narrative has propagated itself, and the reasonable explanation is labeled a cover-up. This makes fact-checking and debunking a conspiracy theory mostly useful for convincing people who are not yet in too deep. The Pelosi conspiracy theory is different because there is no kernel at all. Nearly every detail that supports this conspiracy theory is also a fabrication. The theory does not simply contain a bunch of easily explainable but superficially suspicious details. It doesn't really contain anything. In their book, A Lot of People Are Saying, Nancy L. Rosenblum and Russell Muirhead describe this new conspiracism as conspiracy without the theory. Nevertheless, every theory starts somewhere, even if it's just a lie, and due to the simplicity of tracking patterns and trends on the internet, we can actually see where it started and how it grew. Even if we can't convince many conspiracy theorists that their theories are wrong, we need to understand why they cannot be convinced otherwise, and how these conspiracies happened in the first place. A false flag operation is an act that disguises the perpetrator of a crime or incident and blames a separate or unrelated party. A simpler term would be frame job or setup, but false flag carries a connotation of being conducted by the state in service of a political cause. A conspiracy theory in which there is an accusation of a false flag operation is commonly developed immediately after an incident or catastrophe that could theoretically advance a political cause. For example, following a school shooting, the conspiracy theorist right might label the tragedy a false flag, an intricate hoax designed to advance new laws related to firearms. False flag operations do exist and historically have been conducted by the state as a pretext for war, but elaborate false flags are rare compared to the amount of incidents that are incorrectly labeled false flags by conspiracy theorists, and compared to the amount of incidents that are common everyday legitimate crimes. False flags happen, but labeling something a false flag without evidence is foolhardy. Nobody should simply jump to such a conclusion. The consequences to mislabeling an incident a false flag are dire, both for whoever is making the accusation and those who have been incorrectly accused of participating in this invented false flag. If an incident occurs and many people immediately label the incident a false flag, they are almost certainly doing so without any real evidence. No investigation has occurred, no evidence has been compiled. This just happened 5 minutes ago. Those who mislabel the incident a false flag are doing so because it benefits themselves to do so. It benefits their own political causes, political ideology, or political party. If an incident occurs that makes their politics and values look bad because it was carried out in the name of their politics and values, these conspiracy theorists will find some comfort in dismissing the incident altogether. On the Fox News program The Big Sunday Show, the hosts cast doubt on the sequence of events, claiming that it doesn't add up, and that the news raises more questions than answers. They couldn't really go full Alex Jones, and instead opted for the transparent position of, "We're just asking questions." When propagandists and conspiracy theorists say that they are just asking questions, what they really mean is that they are trying to inject answers into their audience. False answers that are not necessarily explicitly stated, but provided nonetheless through implication. A lot of wink wink nudge nudge with plausible deniability once the facts become clear. The Paul Pelosi conspiracy theory is actually two theories. The false flag conspiracy theory is that the assault was staged to condemn right-wing violence shortly before the midterm elections. The gay affair conspiracy theory is that Paul and David were lovers and that the break-in never happened. These two theories appear mutually exclusive, but maybe not in the minds of conspiracy theorists. The false flag conspiracy theory was implied by some in right-wing media, but it was largely supplanted by the more salacious theory. Rather than come to grips with a challenge to their politics and values, it is far easier for them to essentially lie to themselves and others, stating with unearned confidence, "This never happened." Right-wing violence and right-wing terrorism occurs in far greater numbers than left-wing violence and left-wing terrorism. Study after study shows this, whether the data comes from state sources or independent sources. But if someone identifies with the right wing, this fact is preposterous and must be dismissed outright. On the morning of October 28th, a local Fox affiliate, KTVU, posted an article on the incident. The article erroneously claimed that either both men were in their underwear or that just DePape was in his underwear. It is unclear why this investigative reporter from KTVU wrote this, but it has since been corrected within the very same article. It's not true, and nobody else even reported this. It has been corrected. Pelosi was actually wearing a pajama shirt because, he was sleeping at 2 a.m. when this was happening. DePape was wearing ordinary clothes. He needed pockets for his zip ties, which he wanted to use to kidnap the Pelosis. Everyone sees the headline and everyone ignores a correction. The same morning, a right-wing, fake news media outlet called the Santa Monica Observer wrote a story claiming that Paul Pelosi and David DePape were actually engaged in a gay tryst. The Santa Monica Observer is a notorious media outlet that traffics in fabricated stories such as Donald Trump appointing Kanye West to a high position in the Department of Interior, Bill Gates creating a polio epidemic, and that the cure for COVID-19 is sunlight. The Santa Monica Observer is a tabloid, and this tabloid story probably would have gone largely unnoticed if it had not been amplified by Elon Musk. He did it in the strangest way too, replying to Hillary Clinton and linking to the fake news article. Coincidentally, the Santa Monica Observer once claimed that Hillary Clinton actually died on 9/11. The Observer also claimed that the woman debating Donald Trump on television was a secret body double and not the real Hillary Clinton. The Santa Monica Observer is basically the weekly world news with a few less articles about Bat Boy. Even days later, right-wing hacks and conspiracy theorists spread this nonsense all over social media. Tim Pool infamously cast doubt on the real story even days later, spreading this mindless skepticism to over 1 million followers. Perhaps Mr. Poole was feeling defensive because DePape was confirmed to be a fan of his. Steven Crowder went even further, more explicitly reciting the more salacious parts of the fake story. Every right-wing figure wanted a piece of this, from fascist propagandists like Matt Walsh to elected officials like Senator Ted Cruz. So what did the conspiracy theorists get wrong besides just believing a fake news story? Well, it turns out, everything. First, conspiracists claim that the events of the break-in do not align with the official story. They claim that the broken glass looks like it was broken from the inside instead of outside, but experts do not agree with this assessment. Glass shatters everywhere, especially when struck with a blunt object as opposed to, say, a brick or rock thrown through it from a distance. Break a pane of glass by cracking it with a hammer, and some of it will fall opposite yourself and some of it will fall closer to yourself. Shattered glass is kind of chaotic. Next, conspiracists claim that if there is nothing to hide, why not release the security cameras to law enforcement? But the security footage has already been seen by law enforcement. Although the incident occurred in California, United States Capitol Police have access to the footage. USCP has access to over 1,800 cameras connected to federal employees like representatives and senators. The USCP did not monitor the incident in real time because Nancy Pelosi was not home at the time, but they were able to review the footage and confirm the events. Conspiracists saying, "Release the footage to the police," are just, making that up. The police, specifically the USCP, already have the footage. The police had it automatically. Next, conspiracists claim that if there is nothing to hide, the police should release the body cam footage. So first, their tactic was saying that the Pelosis were not complying with our brave men in blue, but now it's like, our brave men in blue are hiding something from the Pelosis and us. The target, the suspect, it always needs to change. Generally, the police only release body cam footage under certain circumstances. Body cam footage is released if there is a suspicion of police misconduct, and the victim of the misconduct goes through the courts or some other proper channel to force the police to make the footage available. There is no accusation of police misconduct in this incident. So if the body cam footage is not related to a crime committed by the police, it's just, regular evidence, and releasing evidence to the press in the middle of an investigation would not be in the best interest of the victim. This is normal. Next, a mistake in a report was cited as proof of the conspiracy theory, but the mistake was corrected. When a journalist reports something that is later proven false, there is a retraction. But if a conspiracy theory is bolstered by the erroneous reporting, then the conspiracy theorist labels the retraction a cover-up. Even though retractions are standard operating procedure for legitimate journalism. Next, conspiracists claim that the 911 call proved that Paul Pelosi knew David DePape prior to the incident, and that Mr. Pelosi referred to Mr. DePape as a friend. However, this is a distortion. Documents transcribing the call actually show the opposite. When Mr. Pelosi was on the phone, he tried to be careful about what he said because DePape was within earshot. That's why Mr. Pelosi waffled back and forth about whether or not he needed police assistance. More importantly, Mr. Pelosi did not call DePape his friend. It was actually DePep who called out, trying to intervene with the call, falsely claiming that he was a friend of the Pelosi family. Conspiracy theorists got it backwards, as they often do. Next, conspiracists claim that all the evidence of David DePep being a right-wing wacko has been manufactured. Conspiracists desperately want to believe that every blog entry and every other piece of evidence was invented, in a matter of minutes, between the time that the story broke and the time that his social media was uncovered. People who think that do not know much about the internet. A fake image is easy to post, yes, but a years-long digital footprint is far more challenging. The internet has timestamps and a Wayback Machine and many other methods in which to confirm the time that someone wrote something. David DePep's internet history is well documented. Frankly, even without Elon Musk, the conspiracy theory still may have spread, just not quite as far and wide, and that's because of good old-fashioned confirmation bias. If you hate Nancy Pelosi, you might find the notion of sympathizing with her so objectionable that the first alternative story to come your way might be more appealing. I'll be blunt. I don't like Nancy Pelosi either, and anyone who has followed my work for long enough is probably not too surprised by that. I'm just, not willing to believe a bunch of bullshit. I want to know the facts, and it's becoming harder to just get the facts out there. Hi everybody. If you like what I do, make sure to subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell so that you never miss an episode. Also, check out my Patreon link. See you soon.